Hello and welcome. Welcome to the fourth annual Screech competition of short, enlightening talks given by Rice Engineering graduate students. I hope that by the end of tonight, each one of us will leave this room greatly inspired by 26 different talks of Rice graduate students telling us how they are striving to change the world to become a better place. My name is Anastasia Novinska, and I'm a third-year graduate student in Computer Science Department at Rice, also a member of our cell graduate committee, and I will be opening Screech for you tonight. One of the main purposes of Screech was to expose cutting-edge research happening at Rice, creating a fruitful environment for collaborations, as well as connecting students with people who can help them to actually bring their research to life by building the technology and commercializing it and deliver it to all people. This, I would say, global Screech impact is extremely important. But tonight, I want to talk with you a little bit about different kind of impact of Screech, personal one. This one, I was lucky to experience myself while being a participant last year. And I can tell you that each one of our participants has his own reasons to sign up to become a Screecher. But all of them has one thing in common. The moment you have signed up for a Screech, you have committed to take a challenge. The challenge to grow and to stretch your abilities. And the challenge might be different for each one of our participants. For some, it might be the challenge to rediscover the passion for their own work. As all graduate students here in this room, as well as people who went to grad school once, know very well that conducting a research very often can take months and years of selfless work without seeing a result you were hoping for. And at such moments, it might be very easily for you to get upset and start doubting whether it's actually for you, whether the grad school was the right choice. And the temptation to quit might get very high at such moments. I personally believe that it's only worth to go through all the hardships of the graduate school if you're absolutely in love with your research. And to stay in this condition, you need to constantly remind yourself why you fell for it in the very beginning. Why what you are doing is important. Who are those people who will thank you at the end? For other Screech participants, the challenge might be to bring their research, their work, for an open judgment. We all know that spending countless days and sleepless nights doing our projects, we got so attached to them. It's almost like our baby. And it's not easy at all to actually bring it out, like expose it for public criticism. For me personally, the challenge was to overcome my fear of public speaking. I was just terrified from the only idea that I need to come and speak in front of a big audience. In front of just an audience, actually. And look at me now, staying here tonight and giving this opening for Screech for all of you. And I believe that the first major step for me to get to this position today was made 1 year ago at Screech competition. And who knows how this year's participants will grow from this experience. Whatever their personal challenge was, I want to congratulate each one of them. For just being here tonight, they have already won their own small personal battle. And that is exactly why each of our participants has already got his certificate of being a Screecher. As a reminder of this small victory, which I believe is even more important than the actual title of being a Screech winner. Nonetheless, I'm sure each one of you are excited to get to our this year's Screech battle. And without taking more of your time, I would like to handle this microphone for our wonderful MC for tonight, third-year graduate student of Bioengineering Department at Rice and member of our cell graduate committee. Welcome, please welcome Emily Evans.
Thank you, Anastasia, for that really inspiring introduction. As she said, my name is Emily, and I'm going to be your MC for the evening. Before we get started, I just have to go over a few things that everyone should know about how the competition is going to work, and then we'll dive right into it. So tonight we have 26 graduate students participating from 8 engineering departments, and we have judges here. Our judges have scorecards. They're going to score from 1 to 10 based on 3 categories: timing, content, and delivery. The subcategories of these 3 main categories are shown above, and each of those will be taken into account for the final score. So, to our prizes. Tonight, our Screechers are competing for first place, second place, and third place, as well as best in department prizes. A best overall department will get a Valhalla tab. And clearly we have a lot of bartenders in the audience. And then finally we'll have an audience choice. So if everyone should have gotten an index card. If you didn't, we can pick one up at the end. But this index card will allow you to vote for your favorite Screecher, and we'll tally those up, and we'll give another $100 to the audience choice. Our audience can also participate by giving great energy to our Screechers as they come up, and really welcome them to the stage. So this event will only last about an hour, so we aren't going to have an intermission this year, but we will have a little stretch break in between. Okay. So first, I would like to introduce Andrew Irwin. Andrew is a mechanical engineer with a passion for running and outdoors. He has competed in the Boston Marathon, he has completed an Ironman triathlon, and he is looking to complete the 220-mile John Muir Trail in the Sierras as his next adventure. His life goal is to enable individuals who have experienced traumatic injuries to live with independence and pursue their dreams. So for this talk, we'll hear how he's working to accomplish a piece of that goal by reducing the time and cost of rehabilitation following traumatic injury. Let's welcome Andrew.
What do you think of when I say the word robot? Perhaps you thought of Wall-E or C-3PO. Maybe you thought of Tony Stark's armor in Iron Man. Stark's armor is called an exoskeleton, and while robots are becoming commonplace, exoskeletons like Stark still largely lie in fantasy. But did you know that exoskeletons are being used daily for automated physical therapy? My lab uses exoskeletons for therapy with patients recovering from traumatic injury. However, while robotic therapy is beneficial, to maximize its potential, we need to understand how the brain recovers during therapy. To accomplish this, I have built an exoskeleton that can be used during functional MRI. Designing this device was extremely complex. I had to ensure that it would operate safely with a human while close to a strong magnetic field. My exoskeleton is the first of its kind, providing robotic therapy with the user's wrist while capturing images of brain activity. These images provide a measure of recovery and will revolutionize robotic therapy by allowing for personalized treatment while also reducing therapy's significant costs and time. While the present might not be up to fantasy, I believe it is even more exciting since researchers are using robots to better everyone's lives. And in the event that C-3PO or Tony Stark needs physical therapy, we will be ready.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, up next, we have Mahdi Asefzadeh. So Mahdi was born in Iran and is inspired by his advisor, Aiden Badanaki, in ECE. One of Mahdi's goals is to make the world less complicated. I can't wait until he figures out how to do that. Until then, he's going to be telling us how he's attempting to eliminate airport security lines while maximizing security using a small, fast millimeter wavelength terahertz camera.
I have something on the tip of my finger with the size of a grain of sand. It is so small that you can barely see it with your naked eyes. But it can solve many of the major challenges that we are dealing with every day. This new chip technology that I'm $100,000, occupy an entire room, and need a long time to acquire images. My research will turn these 100K bulky and slow scanners into $10 pocket-sized 3D cameras that can produce terahertz videos for the first time. The idea is based on radiating broadband electromagnetic pulses from silicon CMOS chips. I have recently built the world's first silicon array chip that radiates high-power millimeter wave to terahertz frequencies. This technology will eliminate long TSA lines and will revolutionize individual security by introducing a portable millimeter wave camera. Beyond security applications, this camera can produce spectroscopic images for chemical and biosensing. And by providing portable medical imagers to the people of the world on their cell phones, it can globalize early detection of cancer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monty. All right, up next, we have Jennifer Burnett. She's an applied physics student representing the Richards Cornum Lab in bioengineering. After graduation, she wants to continue to develop sensing devices, either for chemical detection or medical diagnosis. Once she knows where she'll be located, she would like to contribute to the next generation of scientists through grassroots backyard science programs. Upon being satisfied with her contribution to the world, she will definitely be traveling to space. She was inspired by Sally Ride as a kid, and the centrality of space in Houston is a big reason why she came to Rice. For now, I'm excited to hear how she's using in vivo microscopy to detect malaria infection.
Every minute, a child dies from malaria. In fact, 80% of all malaria-related deaths occur in children under the age of 5. But that statistic is a reality that doctors face in malaria-endemic regions. Therefore, when a child turns sick and has a fever, they're often preemptively treated with antimalarial drugs, whether or not they have malaria. This practice can lead to drug resistance and ultimately make drugs ineffective. So some methods for detecting malaria have been developed, but they all rely on a finger prick blood sample. And this requires one-time use consumables that are just too expensive to be useful. But what if we don't need to take a blood sample? What if we could actually detect malaria as it's circulating through the body? Well, I developed a device that does just that. Using a portable microscope, I'm able to locate vessels in just near the tissue surface, like those just inside your lower lip. And then inside the vessels, I can detect and quantify malaria-infected cells as they're circulating through the blood vessels. And I'm able to do all of this by taking advantage of an optical property that's unique just to malaria. All of this without a finger prick. In the end, this technology can provide doctors with a blood test that is bloodless.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, next up, we have Simbershe Zinamira. Born in Zimbabwe and went to college in Hong Kong, Simba is currently studying computer science at Rice. Through his life work, he hopes to help people understand and leverage the power of computers beyond entertainment. Talking to us about how to process big data in a little amount of time, please welcome Simba.
In the next 90 seconds, over 400 hours worth of video will be uploaded to YouTube. In order to process and store data at this scale, YouTube has to build file systems with thousands of computers. Backing up our videos can double or even triple the amount of data that has to be moved around in these systems. The extra load due to data backup can push the system beyond its limit, resulting in terrible user experience, such as slow loading videos. My research minimizes this interference between data backup and the user experience. The key is carefully timing when we back up data. I have developed a flow control scheme that enables big data file systems to better share their capacity between data backup and traffic to and from users. When the system is stressed to capacity, my flow control slows down data backup, reducing its impact on the user experience. My research can potentially benefit any system that stores and backs up a lot of data. I have implemented and made available my ideas in today's top big data file system. Adding my flow control reduced the duration of some jobs by up to 33%. With my research, the 400 hours worth of video just uploaded to YouTube can be safely backed up without costing us time. And my time is up.
That was awesome. Okay. Next up, we have Marco Rodriguez. Marco is a materials science and nanoengineering student coming to us from Brazil. He brings a love of soccer, but only fake samba dancing moves, apparently. He is inspired by people with smiles on their faces and wants to change the world by doing things with big passion, no matter what. Let's listen to his talk, Batteries on Fire.
Yep. You know the battery in your phone? You might not know this, but a great deal of the volume inside here is filled with flammable chemicals. Yes, flammable. And that's actually the case for most of the batteries out there used in smartphones, laptops, even cars. Not very safe, right? And that's exactly where my work comes in. I develop battery components that have zero flammability and that are so stable that the batteries can still operate at temperatures as high as 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The secret here is to use ionic liquids, which are special salts that are liquid at room temperature, and also boron nitride, a very stable ceramic material. Well, I don't expect you to want to use your phone at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, but safety aside, there are several applications that could benefit from a battery stable at these conditions. Think of an implantable electronic medical device. The easiest way to sterilize it is by using lots of heat, but you can do so if the battery can handle the temperature. Having the right battery could save lots of money and lots of chemicals used nowadays in less effective processes. Want more? Batteries that can sustain high temperatures could be useful to a range of industries, powering from astronaut suits to sensors down oil wells. So believe me, batteries that can survive high temperatures are really hot stuff.
That was awesome. All right, next up is Sonal Galawat. She is from bioengineering, working in the field of tissue engineering. When not thinking about work, Sonal's mind is on planes. She loves airplanes, she loves air crash investigation season, and would consider working for the NTSB. Looking up to her father, a member of the Indian Air Force, she has also acquired a love of adventure and is looking forward to skydiving and scuba diving in the near future. Here at Rice, she's using hydrogels for the repair of congenital diaphragmatic hernia.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if your baby's kidney, liver, and stomach enters into his chest? Every 10 minutes, somewhere in the world, a baby is born with such complications. This is the result of a defect called congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Their lungs can't expand and grow normally. Only 50% of such babies survives after birth. The current in utero treatment involves the blocking of baby's trachea with a balloon. This balloon helps in the buildup of fluids in the lungs cavity, creating pressure and enhancing lung development. However, the removal of fluid-filled balloon often requires extensive surgery. If not done properly and fast enough, it may result in the baby's death. My research team is developing a special hydrogel for injecting into the balloon. This hydrogel will solidify once injected into the baby's body. This gel can be easily converted into a solution by lowering down the baby's body temperature, and the deflated balloon can be easily removed without any surgery. This procedure will allow us to save the lives of 800 babies per year in the US alone. And who knows, one of these saved babies may find ways in the future for fighting other congenital diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonal. All right. Next up, we have Sue Du. Sue is a self-proclaimed math geek who's hailing from ECE and wants to go into industry after graduation. He has big plans to provide reliable internet access as a basic right for all, and is inspired by all kinds of people that he works with who has heart of gold. Let's hear about his work with multi-user MIMO with full duplex ratios.
Last year, for the first time in human history, there are more active mobile devices than the number of people on Earth. And the growth of mobile devices is now slowing down. In order to serve the dramatically increasing number of users, companies like AT&T or Verizon rely on serving many users at the same time. Before providing service, current systems spend a really long and painful time to collect information from each of the mobile devices. In my project, I propose a new strategy to leverage this slow collection process. My strategy allows companies like AT&T or Verizon to send data while they are like Facebook updates or videos, while they are learning useful information. At Rice, I have demonstrated that my strategy can more than double the performance of current systems. So now with the new strategy, we can really keep up with the speed of the increase of mobile devices. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sue. Next up, we have Sabarathanam Kawashwar. A civil and environmental engineer, Sabarathanam was born in India and is a big fan of metal music. He is inspired by problems with unknown solutions, which inspires him to dig deeper to figure it out. A perfect quality for grad student. Talking about protecting above-ground storage tanks, please welcome Sabarathanam.
During Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, over 7 million gallons of petroleum products were spilled due to tank failures. Many of these tanks just floated away, and many of them were crushed during the hurricane. One such tank failure led to a huge oil spill, which cost over $500 million and also left over 1,700 homes uninhabitable. My research prevents such kind of catastrophic tank failures. These tanks are large vertical cylinders that you might have seen while driving around the Houston area. They have very thin walls and have very light weight, which makes them vulnerable during hurricanes. And we have over 4,000 of these tanks in the ship channel area. Consequences of tank failure here would be disastrous for the region. And you know what? Nobody is studying these tanks. So, in my research, I study the behavior of these tanks during hurricanes using computer simulations. Using the results of my simulations with techniques from machine learning and statistics, I am able to predict which tank might fail during a given hurricane. To save these tanks or to improve their performance, I recommend that these tanks be anchored to the ground so that they don't float away during a given hurricane, or we can also fit them with stiffening rings such that they don't crush during the hurricane. My recommendations can prevent huge oil spills in the next big hurricane due to tank failures. Thank you.
Finished just in the nick of time. All right. Next up, we have David Ramirez. When asked how David wants to change the world, he said, unconventionally. Our next ECE representative is trilingual, has hiked Machu Picchu, surfed Hawaii, and randomly bakes cookies to share with his friends. While we're talking about how great David is, I would also like to give him a quick shout out for co-hosting previous Screech events and for making it what it is today. So, now as a participant, he will tell us more about service-centric networks, the end of video buffering.
"1997, the year Rice freshmen learned to walk. Prius was leading the charge in fuel efficiency, and mobile phones were flipping open. Today, diapers have been changed for textbooks. The Prius has been outraced by the Tesla, and mobile phones have outsmarted their users. Fortunately, we retain one glorious artifact from this bygone era, Wi-Fi, and the wonderful way that it works. Except it doesn't. Anybody who has waited for Netflix to buffer will agree with me. Wi-Fi doesn't work. What's worse is we've been conditioned to accept this delay as normal. We need a wireless network that provides services when we need them. When you're sick, you don't randomly just take medication, but this is what Wi-Fi does. It randomly waits to transmit your information. This leads to buffering, delay, and unreliability. To cure Wi-Fi, we should learn about the services that are being requested and schedule our network to provide these services. In the past, scheduling has focused on rate maximization and fairness. But these criteria do not meet the needs of the modern user. I have created a solution, a service-centric framework for scheduling, under which I have found optimal algorithms to maximize the service provisioning capability of all our networks. My work will enable a future in which we can all watch Netflix without buffering, and wireless networks do not impose conditions upon us. Instead, we will get the services we need without delay and when we demand them.
Thank you, David. All right, next up, we have Sydney Gibson. Sydney was inspired by Dr. Mae Jemison, the first black woman in space, who provided her with a role model in science who looked like her. Throughout her career, she wants to continue to inspire girls to do science and to also do great things as well. Here to tell us about how she's working to understand blood vessel formation in cancer, let's welcome Sydney to the podium.
On April 19, 1775, the British marched the road to Lexington and Concord. But little did they know that the American revolutionaries anticipated this attack, and they ambushed the army en route, marking one of the first victories in winning the Revolutionary War. Now, what if I told you that I aim to attack cancer the same way the Americans attacked the British? Like the British, cancer uses a similar war tactic in your own body by creating blood vessels. These vessels act as a road for cancer to march through your circulation and attack your organs. My research aims to take the American way to this problem. Ambush the cancer and stop it in its path. If we can prevent cancer from creating these blood vessel pathways, we can prevent its spread and in turn save lives. I aim to engineer an artificial tumor that will allow me to study how cancer cells interact with healthy cells to induce blood vessel formation. If we can understand the mechanisms of how cancer creates blood vessels, we can directly target those mechanisms for cancer treatment. My artificial tumor will tell me how cancer communicates with your cells through physical contact and chemical signaling. Plus, this method is more comprehensive and more efficient than using messy animal studies. My results will provide critical information on how we can ambush the cancer, just like our American forefathers. And if we can prevent this enemy from advancing any further, well, that's just one more victory towards winning the war on cancer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sydney. Next up, we have another bioengineer coming to us from the Tabor Lab. Outside of the lab, Brian is currently heading an outreach program, which has enabled over 1,000 high school students to take photographs with bacteria. To see some great photos, check out www.bactograph.org. His life ambition is to leave evolution in the past and to work with genetically engineered organisms to improve our future. For today, let's hear about Bacterial Doctors, a probiotic to diagnose and cure disease. Diabetes.
I want everyone to place their hand on their gut. Underneath your hand is 5 pounds of bacteria. Kind of gross, right? Right now, these bacteria are digesting your dinner. But when they sense it's to their advantage, they will try to cause cancer, make you depressed, or give you diabetes. I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with that. So for my research, I've hijacked one of these bacteria to serve us instead. Using DNA code, I've reprogrammed this cell into a bacterial doctor, giving it instructions to go into our gut, monitor what's going on, and when it senses something is wrong, treat it with drugs. Just like your doctor runs a panel of tests, my bacterial doctor assays your gut environment looking for buildup of nitrate, an early warning sign to diabetes. When it senses high levels of this harmful chemical, it jumps into action. Instead of handing you a prescription, it secretes an antibiotic compound which specifically targets the bad nitrate-consuming bacteria that can lead to diabetes, stopping them in their tracks. However, unlike your human doctor, you can swallow this bacterial doctor and it will live happily inside of you. So instead of a 15-minute office visit once a year, your bacterial doctor is always diagnosing and treating your gut. This is a new paradigm in the treatment of human diseases and paves the way for managing more complex ailments in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. All right, next up, we have Patrick's son. Patrick is a civil engineering student inspired by Steve Jobs. He claims to have some magic to share with us that makes structures both smarter and safer. Let's hear more about it in his talk, Smart Skin for Structures.
Have you ever worried about your safety on a roller coaster? I bet you don't want a small crack to make this trip your final destination. Safety inspection for structures, such as a roller coaster, is both time and labor consuming. A traditional sensor can only measure data at one spot, so we have to mount hundreds of sensors and wires. I was wondering, can I get rid of everything and just use one sensor to monitor the health of the structure? Imagine, a structure covered with this one sensor can feel a crack just like my skin feels a pain. It's happening now. I designed Smart Skin for Structures. It's a shiny polymer film containing carbon nanotubes. Any structural deformation will stretch the skin and change the nanotube property. By measuring this change wirelessly, we can evaluate the health of the whole structure, like a real skin with a nervous system. My Smart Skin has a large inbuilt sensing network. No matter where a crack happens, my Smart Skin can detect it, locate it, and alarm people in seconds. My Smart Skin can protect any structure. Buildings, bridges, oil platforms, you name it. Amazing, isn't it? Next time, you will never worry on a roller coaster. Skin for structure, safety for future. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we have Kinshuk Mintra. Kinshuk comes to us from the bioengineering department. He's a PhD student who wants to work in a medium startup company after graduation or start his own. But to protect his ideas until then, he writes his invention ideas in hexadecimal code. His ultimate goal is to pursue the democratization of biotechnology. Right now, he's going to share some more about his current work, focusing on barcoding biology, making cells talk to us.
Every 10 seconds, a human being is put on an organ transplant list. Stem cells are supposed to cure cancer, make whole organs, repair tissue, but they don't. Can you imagine how frustrating this is? Can you imagine? And the fundamental point is that clinicians who use them struggle because they cannot track these stem cells once they're put inside the body. They cannot track the lineages as these cells divide. And this means they can't quality control tissue engineering product, and their FDA approval rate suffers. So most people nowadays use a single color to track a single lineage of stem cell, and this means they can only track about 80. We make the cells blink a series of color, And by doing that, we can track our 10 million cell lineages. We can track every stem cell you put to make a whole human organ implanted into the human body. How powerful is this? But it goes beyond that. We can put these in endangered animals like dolphins and see it passed on to their kids, telling us how they are doing in a challenging condition. We can put these in crops and see how they are doing in drought conditions or in war zones like Syria. We can, in essence, barcode biology. My goal is to take this commercially and essentially catalog your world.
Great, thank you, Kinshuk. All right, so we've actually made it through 13 Screechers so far, so we're going to have a quick stretch break. If you're standing up in the back, come sit down. We don't have enough time for everyone to leave, but if you do need to use the restroom, you can go outside to the right and then come back in from the top. So everyone get up in your seats, quick stretch break, and then we'll get started with our next round. find their seats. We're going to get started. If you need a seat, there's a couple up here. Thank you. All right. So, we're feeling stretched. We're feeling ready for the next half. All right, let's do it. All right, next up we have JV Abella. JV is a computer science student who can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 30 seconds on a good day. After graduation, he is looking to travel more and pursue a career in academia. Let's see if JV can emulate some of his smooth and elegant characteristics of his idol, Roger Federer, in his talk today entitled Computational Study of Viruses.
Wow, I gotta tell you guys, I love viruses. Oh, you mean those things that make your internet slow or steal your credit card numbers? No, I hate those. I'm talking about biological viruses. You know, those small infectious agents that just replicate themselves all day by hijacking your cells, injecting their DNA into yours so that your own body can make copies of it and do the same thing over and over? Yeah, those. Aren't they just them to the traditional way? Because you see, I'm kind of a klutz in the lab. And you don't want me studying these things with test tubes and pipettes, and all of a sudden, oops, contamination, now everybody's infected, and all of a sudden we're in a new cast of The Walking Dead. No, I use something else. I use computers. Because with computers, I can build probabilistic algorithms to study the different structural states of these viruses. Or I can simulate the forces between the atoms that make up these viruses so that I can get a detailed picture of how these viruses move. Or I can develop machine learning algorithms to extract the important features and patterns of their dynamics. Or I can even find the compounds or proteins that will bind to these viruses, immobilizing their growth so that the next generation of therapeutics can be made to save lives. So you see, I don't study computer viruses. I study these really cool viruses in the computer. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Jacob Torres. In addition to impacting the world with his work in civil engineering, Jacob wants to make an impact on this world by being a great father to his kids. Another fun fact, Jacob is a cycler and triathlete. Let's hear more about his work towards urban infrastructure resiliency, seeking topological order among the engineered chaos.
These days, we all want things we can count on. Seatbelts work most of the time, but we really count on them in that precise moment of danger. Same goes for our critical infrastructure systems. See, here in Houston, we count on electricity, water, and transportation to all function during a hurricane. But these systems are also interdependent, meaning a power outage can shut down a pump station, rupturing a water main, flooding a major roadway, detouring firefighters, the list goes on. It's essentially a domino effect of cascading interconnected failures. So what's the big deal? Engineers have long mastered the art of infrastructure design, but only as independent systems. No framework exists for managing their interdependency. So how can we expect planners to manage what we can't measure? My infrastructure focus is on water supply. My job is to simplify all of its complexities containing tanks, valves, and pipes, and simplify the complexity of tanks, valves, and pipes, and to extract the topological fingerprints underlying thousands of pipe networks, and then making correlations against physics-based models. Is this the missing link between infrastructure design and urban resiliency? All signs point towards count on.
Thank you, Jacob. All right, next up, we have Mohammed Sadiq Riazi. Mohammed was destined to go into the STEM field as his last name means mathematics and his native language Persian. After graduation, he wants to work for a big tech company like Google or Microsoft before breaking off onto entrepreneurial ambitions. His work at Rice is centered around securing genome matching and applications.
For example, if companies have access to it, they can reject hiring you because they know that you might get Alzheimer's in your 50s. Your genome is a unique identifier. It cannot be changed like passwords. Once it's revealed, there is no way back, and your privacy is gone. The solution is to work with an encrypted version of genomes. So far, it has been too difficult to effectively compare encrypted genomes, and current methods are not practical. In my research, I designed the first practical secure genome matching system. My method is 2 orders of magnitude faster than any current method. The idea is to split the computation into 2 parts, performed by 2 different servers. 2 differently encrypted versions of your genome are sent to servers. Each server analyzes and sends back the result. The final results are meaningful only if they are combined. Since nobody gets access to the raw genome, it gives us a privacy. By using my system, you can get to know which diseases you might get and possibly prevent or cure them sooner while your personal genome stays private.
Awesome. All right. Next up, we have Julia Badanish. Julia has a talent for finding 4-leaf clovers. After graduation, she's looking to take her luck into an academic or government lab. She's inspired by her advisors at Rice and wants to contribute to the Rice commitment to solve environmental challenges. To give us a piece of that contribution, she's here to tell us about her work, changing the way we clean oil spills.
We've all heard of major oil spills in the ocean, but what if I told you that some of the most devastating oil spills are the ones that we really don't hear much about? These are spills on land. Every single day, there are over 350 oil spills on US soil alone. So this is a major environmental, economic, and public health problem. Many of these spills would take decades and decades to degrade on their own, so we have to incinerate them. And this completely destroys the quality of the soil for future generations. So my research focuses on not just cleaning up spills, but actually looking at the oil as more than a problem. We're looking at oil as a misplaced resource and actually using oil to restore soil fertility, which I guarantee you is something that no one in this room or on this planet can live without. So instead of burning the oil, we're heating it without oxygen. No oxygen means no fire, and no fire means that the nutrients in the soil don't burn away. The oil itself is converted into an entirely new product similar to charcoal that may even have additional soil fertility benefits as well. We're able to clean up these spills in a couple hours and grow bigger, healthier plants than ever before. So even though we do have 25,000 spills a year, they don't have to be total disasters. By reconceptualizing how we view traditional problems, like the oil of an oil spill, we can find new opportunities from these problems to recover and restore resources that we thought were lost for good. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Julia. Next up, we have Samantha Paulson. Sam wanted us to know that she's as excited to hear all of these great talks as she is to present herself today. It has been really inspiring, so thank you all for being here today. After graduation, she plans to pursue a career in the medical device industry. Outside of lab, Sam is national champion in ultimate frisbee and just got her first layout hand block recently. Like many of our other participants, some of her experiences with those claiming she didn't look like a typical engineer have made her passionate about addressing gender equality issues as well. Clearly, Sam has many talents, but let's hear about her work 3D printing blood vessels towards engineering personalized tissue replacements.
Currently, there are nearly 125,000 Americans waiting for a replacement organ, such as a new kidney, liver, or heart. Every day, 21 of these patients will die just waiting for their transplant. And the situation is getting even worse because the need for transplant organs is growing significantly faster than the number of available donors. But imagine if scientists could build replacement organs and tissues outside of the body using a patient's own cells. My lab is using advances in 3D printing technology to build complex tissues outside of the body. However, before we can build tissues on the scale of whole organs, we must first have the ability to create blood vessel networks to provide oxygen and nutrients to cells deep within our engineered tissues. This is where my research is key. There are many key features affecting blood vessel function,
including vascular geometry, blood flow rates, and properties of cells surrounding the vessels. I am using both computational and experimental models to understand the role of these key features in sustaining cells within our tissues. Using this information, I can then optimize blood vessel structure prior to 3D printing so that scientists can improve cell survival and function in engineered tissues. My research is bringing us closer to printing full-scale functioning organs outside of the body. In the future, we will not have to depend on donated organs. We will simply use a patient's own cells to build replacements. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Emily Yedinak. One of my favorite things about many of the graduate students at Rice is how they integrate their research or their passions for science with important things like policy. So Emily is hoping to use her degree to influence international policy, particularly in the climate space. When not working towards cleaning the water supply and engaging scientists in community collaborations, Emily is aiming to make the world more aware of the glories of homemade popcorn and her mom's oatmeal cake. She credits her mom and her aunt as the inspiring female role models who have helped shape who she is today. Let's hear some more about her project, Magic Sponges to Save the World, one drop at a time.
You know those cleaning commercials where a tragic spill occurs, but luckily with the help of advanced cleaning technology, the spill is cleaned and the world rejoices. Now, what if we did a similar process immediately following an oil spill? In 2010, the Gulf saw the largest oil spill in history. 4.9 million barrels of oil were released into the Gulf, only 16% of which was recaptured. To eradicate the remaining 84%, 1.8 million gallons of chemical dispersants, even more toxic than the oil itself, were released into the Gulf. My research will make oil spill cleanup efforts safer, more effective, and more profitable. My ultralight, highly porous graphene aerogels, or smart sponges, are composed primarily of carbon and can selectively absorb a significant amount of oil while floating harmlessly over the surface of the water. 1 gram of a similar carbon-based sponge was capable of absorbing 28 liters of oil. This oil can then be later reclaimed by simple application of heat, which makes the cleanup efforts efficient and profitable. Additionally, by incorporating metal nanoparticles, I can confer additional properties to these smart sponges, which will then have additional applications in lithium-ion batteries and supercapacitors. With their incredible versatility, these smart sponges will impact the scientific community and environment in more ways than one.
Thank you, Emily. All right, next up, we have Nicholas Trenton. So I'll start with Nick's non-research ambitions. His first is to expand Tacos Tierra Caliente, the food truck next to the Alabama Ice House, into every city in this country. Nick also serves on our Graduate Student Association Executive Board as our external vice president. He is inspired by his grandfather, who persevered through poverty in World War II to graduate from Berkeley and then become the president of a major national department store. But let's hear some more about his work using multiplex fluorescent imaging techniques to investigate inflammatory breast cancer microenvironment.
Most breast cancer patients have good odds of survival, but consider this fact. Nearly 70% of women will die within 5 years if they contract a rare and complex breast cancer known as inflammatory breast cancer, or IBC. Unlike other breast cancers, IBC can resist therapy by hijacking and recruiting the body's own immune system, which then forms a fortress around the tumor. Think of it like this. It's like in American football, where in this case, the offense recruits your immune cells to protect their quarterback. Here, cancer is the quarterback, which defends, which mobilizes and recruits your immune system to defend the tumor and help it advance. To understand why your immune system defends this cancer instead of attacking it, I plan to visually characterize IBC tissue using a technology known as multiplexed imaging. With multiplexed imaging, I can identify the exact locations of at least 12 cell identifiers within a single tissue sample, which is like identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the opposing team's players. I can then reveal the skills and formations of the immune cells and the cancer cells within the tumor and around it, which conventional imaging cannot do. My research will ultimately pave the way for doctors to find new treatments for this disease and to once and for all put IBC on the defensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, next up we have Jian Zai, who is a computational and applied math student who looks up to their advisor, Dr. Martin de Hoop, and wants to be in research after graduation. His life philosophy is to do little things with great passion. With the title, Seeing Inside, please welcome Jian.
Suppose you want to buy a watermelon. How do you tell if it's sweet or not if you are not allowed to open it? I don't know if you guys do this in America, but in my hometown, experienced people can tell by simply tapping the watermelon and listening to the vibration. In a similar way, people want to know the interior structure of the Earth from vibration caused by earthquakes or some other ways. People have been systematically recording seismic data for over 100 years, and more localized vibrations can also be made and recorded. My research is analyzing what are reliable way of interpreting the data and what we can know and what we couldn't know from the data about the structure underneath. It helps with resources exploration and reducing damages caused by earthquakes and understanding the nature of our planet. And I hope eventually it can help us choose good watermelons. Thank you.
Thanks, Jian. All right, next up, we have Chao Zhang, another representative from the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, advised by Dr. Hallis. We'll hear more about his work, breaking hydrogen molecules the easy way.
Hydrogen is an extremely important building block in modern chemical industry. If we cannot use hydrogen molecules for chemical reactions, thousands of things are going to be taken away from us. Gasoline, plastic, modern medicine, and even food. But hydrogen molecules are so stable that we have to break them into more reactive atoms for chemical reactions. To do this, we have to use high temperature, high pressure, and also very expensive catalyst, for example, platinum. In other words, your wedding ring. So, is it possible to do this in an easy way? Yes. Working with my collaborators, I developed a new method of breaking hydrogen molecules at room temperature and atmosphere pressure using a catalyst made of aluminum nanoparticles that are tens of thousands times cheaper than platinum. The only trick is shining light on it. It turns out that aluminum nanoparticles are perfect at transferring energy from light to hydrogen molecules to break them. And this is an important step towards doing inexpensive chemistry. With this method, we can save platinum for jewelry and let aluminum do the job.
Awesome. Thank you, Chao. All right, next up we have Jessie Che. Jessie is a well-known face around campus as the co-social director of the Graduate Student Association, but he also serves as host department, ECE, by coordinating the ECE mentoring program. After graduation, he wants to continue doing research because he loves that sense of finding the unknown and doing something completely new. He plans to share with us how he wants to change the world through his talk called The Foundations of Future Technology.
Our technology is limited by the materials we use. The best hewn rock is nothing compared to an iron sword. Today, silicon is the rock upon which technology stands, but we are reaching the intrinsic limits upon what silicon can do. My research is to find the iron to replace silicon's rock. I work on a material called titanium diselenide. This belongs to a class of layered, two-dimensional materials with applications in electronics, optoelectronics, catalysis, data storage, and even lubrication. This versatility arises from adding a small amount of another element known as a dopant to the system. This is like how adding carbon to iron strengthens it into steel. But I add platinum to make an insulator, copper to make a superconductor, or even iron to make a magnet. My research has two parts: finding the dopants which give rise to these interesting properties, then using a variety of electronic, magnetic, and diffraction techniques to characterize the underlying physics. By understanding the physics, we can gain insight on what other dopants may be interesting to study, as well as how to replicate this effect in other materials. Other Screechies today will tell you how they fix cancer, improve batteries, or make impossible cameras. My research is the foundation of the future technology that will let us solve this and other problems.
All right, thank you, Jesse. And next up, we have Lauren Taylor from the Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Department. Lauren is... Chevy's in the back. She draws inspiration from both her parents, her mom the creative artist, and her dad the logical engineer. After graduation, she plans to be a professor. In this role, she hopes to tackle some of the gender bias she faced by supporting women to pursue their own dreams, no matter what they are. Let's hear how she's using soluble carbon nanotube electrodes for health sensing.
In high school, one of my best friends was suffering from health conditions due to the chemotherapy she underwent as a child. For weeks, she wore baggy clothing because she was embarrassed of all the wires and electrodes connected to her heart monitor. The aim of my research is to develop wearable electronics to make the continuous sensing of her health simple and comfortable. I accomplished this by using carbon nanotube thread to replace electrodes. First, carbon nanotubes are dispersed into superacid. They are then pushed through tiny holes to create a lightweight and conductive fiber. I can then twist this fiber together to make a thread similar to polyester. I can then stitch this thread into bracelets to be worn as health sensors. And as you can see, I'm wearing one right now. They are soft and lightweight, and they can be stretched repeatedly without breaking. The high conductivity of carbon nanotubes allows them to pick up our heart's T waves, similar to that of standard EKG electrodes, but without the rigidity in the goo. Right now, we can use this to determine heart complications. But in the future, we can use them to detect alpha waves in the brain to see things such as stroke, epilepsy, or sleep complications. We can also use it to determine muscle activity and to determine body mass index. So move over, Fitbit. Our health is so much more than steps taken per day.
Thanks, Lauren. Next up, we have Yahi. Yah is a civil and environmental engineer looking to make the world cleaner and make our living environment more healthy. She is inspired by her lab mates here at Rice to continually pursue this goal. She is working on the isolation chip, the future of the huge unexplored bacterial world.
Up to now, thousands of bacteria have been isolated through man-made media. But they are less than 1% of all species, because many bacteria can survive in natural environment, like soil, but they cannot grow in man-made media. So it's more and more difficult to isolate new species depending on man-made media. What if we can finish the isolation work in natural environment? Then we can get new bacteria from 1% up to 100% of all species. My research is using an isolation chip to make this happen. This chip is composed of a membrane and hundreds of tiny chambers. If we want to isolate new bacteria from soil, we just need to put that chip into soil after some preparation. Through the membrane, bacteria can get nutrients from the soil and grow well, which overcomes the limitations of man-made media. Besides, with so many chambers in one chip, you might get many new species at one time. Importantly, it is probable that most of them are from the 99% of unidentified species. So we have more opportunities to find valuable bacteria to produce new medicines, increase food production, and so on. With the isolation chip, change will come.
Thank you so much. All right, next up we have Gabriel Pivaro, another world traveler. Our final participant, Gabriel, was born in Brazil and has traveled through Russia into Mongolia to visit their wild horses. Though committed to contributing to science, he feels his major impact will be as an example that you can go anywhere and do anything that you want to do. He lives by the motto, believe and things will happen. Those things have inspired him to have demonstrated that his belief and to have worked hard to improve their talents and support his endeavors. Now we'll hear how he's increasing wireless connection speed by his talk, Waves Crashing to Deliver More Information.
If you have access to information, you can definitely change your life. For example, most of my colleagues showed today, they learn with internet. However, there are many places that there's no connection or there's poor connection, and this connection is really expensive. The lack of connection leads you to not have access to information. And this information increases the social and cultural inequality. I can help solve this inequality delivering better internet over wireless communication. People have proposed to increase capacity of wireless with multiple streams at the same time. But these streams create interference. I propose a way that I can get rid of this interference and transmit multiple streams at the same time. My scheme is feasible and I can use in the mobile phones. The idea is to split data before transmit, and when the waves crash over the air, instead of interference, they will join and the information will be delivered for each of the users, and in this way I can deliver more data and can improve the life of most of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriel. So that was our last Screecher to go. Before I let everyone leave, we're going to give the judges a few more minutes to tally up their votes and to write their comments. And I'd also like to take some time to say thank you to a lot of people who came together to make this event happen. First of all, to my fellow RSL grad team members, thank you for all the weekly meetings, all of the hard work outside that we put into this to make this really come together tonight. I would also like to thank our coaches for putting in the time, helping our Screechers develop, improve, and to have the confidence to come out here tonight. We would also like to say another big thank you to a lot of our support system, including the RSL office, people from CWOVC, Sarah Lingahan, Kat O'Brien, Ann Lugg, and Dean Thomas. So big thank you to all these people who really were behind the scenes helping this come together. And Caesar and Matt, of course, for the video, and our photographers as well, for they left. And then I would also like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. Dr. Rafai and Dr. Newell for their contribution, the Mifflin family as well for their contribution. One of these contributions was matched by BP, BHP, Billiton, and Exxon. We also got a great grant from the REA, the Rice Engineering Alumni, to put on this event, and we look forward to working with them in the future. Rice Center for Engineering Leadership, of course, for supporting this event and for helping us put this on. So let's give a big round of applause for all the people who made this possible. And finally, I would just like to say a huge thank you. You guys made this event a great success. We loved seeing you all today. We hope that you'll enjoy some refreshments outside, some more food and drinks, and talk to each other, talk about your research. One of my favorite things of the day was realizing how my work is so connected to everyone else's work, like Jesse mentioned and others. So it was really great to hear all of you talk about your work, and I'm excited to talk with you some more about it as well. Let's come on out and enjoy the rest of the evening.